Hey, this is Dr. Pete. Just wanted to do this video, and I was asked by a student to talk about some of the different levels of education, meaning they're in a bachelor's program right now, and they're looking at some point maybe a graduate or doctorate. And funny enough, I've had some doctorate students ask me some of the differences, and because they just recently joined that type of program. So not to really ramble on, but when looking at how we progress in our education, you first come to school. Uh, we want to make sure people are learning a lot of information, being exposed to things. That's why you'll see core, like, why do I have to take a science? Why do I have to take art? Why do and you'll get all these questions. And it's really about exposing people in a liberal arts sort of way to a great number of things, or at least the most we can. And even then, in today's education system, there's some requirements like history, poli sci, art, science, whatever, maybe language. Some schools do language. Um, but what the idea is you get that exposure, and then you can kind of do electives, which help you round out maybe your degree or allow you to pursue not a minor, but some concentration. Maybe you're into communication, or you're into English, or you like poli sci, or leadership courses, whatever it is. And a lot of times you can kind of flex those electives in and around. Now, a lot of times people will go to a school, they'll transfer, and they'll use those electives as kind of like the Yahtzee chance. They use all those and fill them up so they can transfer as much over as possible, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. So the idea is information exposure, and of course we want to learn the foundations of three major skills. We want stronger writing, researching, and also analysis. And so a lot of times on the bachelor's level, where I especially try to teach formats or processes or hints, and you'll see the videos where the Goldilocks effect, paragraphs or indicators where to cite, how to look up things, how to research things, like the one video I did on hints, like really how do you look up stuff, stuff like that. How do you research? And so one of the big things to think about is that while you're in that bachelor's degree, it's like anything. As it builds up, if you don't take care of the foundation, then you can start having trouble down the road. So if you're not working on how to research, meaning to go to the library, the textbook, the Google Scholar, academic sites, then you're going to have trouble as you move up the ladder, so to speak. And that's why I emphasize it so much. It's a skill that once you get it, you can use it anywhere in life. You can use it to research products, buying things, some political issue you like to research, whatever it is, maybe something for your kids or for yourself, even travel plans. All these things can roll up into that researching skill. The other aspect is writing. Doesn't matter how much you research or how much you analyze, if you can't write it, it doesn't matter. So you'll hear people emphasize, okay, while you're going through this process, let's get some help. We got the Word document has a spell check and a grammar check, and you have Perla writing program or other programs, and you have these writing centers. And so some students come in already, they're ready to go, and they just excel there. Other students don't. And just because you don't, the most important thing is not to say, well, it's more about what I think, not how I write it. Well, that just makes us feel better. Okay, that makes someone, that's what we call a defensive mechanism. And the reality is it does matter how you write. Because if people, the first time you shoot off a report or an email and you look illiterate, it's just going to be a hard day. Okay, it could be a career-ending move. It could be you lose a promotion. You don't get considered for things because people think, well, what school did they go to? Okay, and this is just the reality of the world. Now, I just recently, and I've talked about this before, and I've got a couple other students that recently emailed and called me, and they said very clearly, because of the emphasis on writing and how to express themselves, they were able to get a promotion, and I was pretty excited about that. I got that email the other day, and what's really nice about that is it was because other people had not been pushed in writing. They had expressed themselves with grammar issues and didn't do the research and all these other things. And so when these students did this, there's about three of them. Well, one, two, it was three of them. They were able to express how they would do something and how their experiences coupled with some research. It was just really impressive how they explained it. They all said the same thing. And one on the phone was basically saying that at first she resisted it. You know, she said, I didn't have to be told it was all about what, you know, my ideas and this and that. And she said at one point in the class, she just said, enough's enough. I need to do this. Obviously, it's a problem. And she was more faith. And she said, this man's been put in my life for a reason. And this is why. And I know there's a reason. So I'm going to make the most of it. And it was very interesting to see her, her faith-oriented response to it, and she reacted to it and did very well. It's nice to hear these stories because as a professor, we see students in a snapshot. We don't see them where they end up, and those successes are really. I wish we had more of that. I think it would be pretty cool to see that more. Having said that, then you got your analysis, and so if you have better research and better writing, you can express your concepts better. But there are APA steps, like, you know, Goldilocks effect. How big's your paragraphs? How are you citing them? How are you writing them? These are all important because analysis, while it can be insightful, it doesn't change the fact that if you don't understand it, or people can't read it and understand it, or they don't appreciate the research you did, like maybe it's internet websites, Wikipedia, then you can have quite the issue as well. So as you move up through the degrees, the bachelor's level really focuses there. Now, the graduate level, you're focusing. Everyone has these cute things like, you know, bachelor's you regurgitate, master's you start thinking more, and doctorate you start creating. I mean, everyone's got these little things they say, but in essence, the graduate program is more professional degree, and really, to be honest, for most people, that's about where it needs to be because they don't need to spend the time getting a doctorate. They don't really want to be an expert in something, and they don't want to create literature. They just want to stay focused on how do they enhance their career, and it's a really good degree. I always say it's the best degree because it's the shortest one, and you get a master's title, and it's normally 2 years or less, so it's pretty cool, and you get to study everything you want. Okay, in other words, you don't get you might have a little bit of diversity within the field, but you don't start going into other fields too much. So I've always thought that was one of the best degrees, if not the best one. Having said that, what you want to do is make sure that you realize that there's a higher level of writing, a higher level of research, and also analysis. And at the end, typically you have like a final paper or senior thesis, or some people like you would have a thesis, a master's thesis, which isn't like a dissertation, but it's similar. While you're repeating things and kind of getting the basics of a doctorate dissertation, it's normally considered shorter, but you are creating literature, meaning you're creating a primary or original source, and you're trying to get a taste of it, but it's still somewhat like bachelor's in the sense that you're still repeating a lot of things and of that nature. So it's kind of a stepping stone. If you ever wanted to go forward, you could. You've seen it. You've been exposed. But at the same time, you probably won't do that. And then also, too, there's different levels of masters. There's like education masters, which I won't go into. But those are not really ones that prepare you for, say, a doctorate or dissertation. And then there's old school masters, which are maybe like it's concentrated in a area, say leadership, poli-sci, history, science, whatever, math. It's more content driven, not process like education masters. Another thing too, if with some very rare exceptions, like masters fused with doctorate programs, if you can get a master's within a year while working full time, that's normally an indicator. It's not so much academic masters, it's more of a process or checklist master. That's just the reality of it. Okay, and it depends what you want. Do you want to be more of a content expert, or you just want someone to show you how to be through the process? Also, too, there's masters that simply are roughly 36 to 42 hours. It can be more or less. Normally, an original master's is 30 hours, but some schools do 36 with non-thesis. So you can have one with a thesis or without a thesis, and so that's a kind of a difference as well. I always encourage people to go with the thesis route because it opens you up later if you happen to want to do more education, but it also gives you a great writing experience and researching experience, and also takes you to the next level of analysis. Doctorate level is what it is. It's a 4-year process, roughly, sometimes 5. You'll have 48 hours of core material, so to speak, like courses, and you can do the math on that, times it by 3. So normally you have about 15 to 16 courses, and that's your core. Then you have what they call comprehensive, which tests the fact that did you learn all this stuff or not. And that can be, if it's oral, it's pretty intense as well. But it can also be written, which means you might have a 30 to 50 page paper you have to do in order to get through that. And you normally only get a couple shots at it. Then you got your dissertation process, which can take a year to 2 years, and that's a whole nother video, a whole nother day. But the goal is to create original material, and then you become an expert in that niche. Okay, a very small niche, and then as you go into a doctorate, you realize how much you don't realize, how much you don't know, and that's the basic concept. But it's much more intense. The grammar is expected to be better. The writing's expected to be tighter. There's all these different levels. But the most important thing for you is, what do you need in your life, or what do you see yourself needing in the next 5 to 10 years? Again, most people don't need a doctorate. It's cool to have. You put DR, and you can tell people you went to school for 10 years and they kicked you out and told you not to come back unless you want to teach. You can tell little jokes like that. But at the end of the day, most people just need a check mark in order to get a bachelor's degree, and that helps them get into management and grow. And that's normally about right for most people. If you want to take it to that next level, especially like if you're in an agency, teacher, law enforcement, some type of, there's a lot of professional, even people who want to get into business, sometimes they'll get an MBA. Those are important things as well. So you just have to decide when and where you want to get it, and also what you want to get it in. If you get in the wrong topic, or say you want to go into business and you get it into, history, that's not going to help you much. But you got organizational leadership, MBAs, MPAs, Masters of Public Administration. There's a lot of good degrees out there, so make sure you look at them and check them out. But having said that, education's like a tree. It was always better to get it 20 years ago, or plant the tree 20 years ago. So I always tell people, get it while you can, because life changes. You start having kids and families and friends, and you want to travel, and life just, work. There's all these things that distract you. So when you get the opportunity, seize it, because sometimes you don't get that second chance, or you have to wait quite a bit of time until you get it. So hopefully this kind of explains that a little bit better. But if not, drop me a line. I'll either call or work it out. Thanks. Bye-bye.